Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the finest Dawn of War Unification tier lists this side of East Yorkshire. And today, well, kind of know if you've clicked on the video, you probably know what's going to happen. I'm going to go through every single faction and rank them in order of how good they are. This video has been requested a couple of times now. I think people assume that because I cast the games, I know lots about the factions and know lots about how you would rank them and tier them and whatnot. But we'll see. I'll open this video with a couple of caveats first and foremost. First one being that casting a faction is not the same as knowing them, all the nooks and crannies in the middle, of how they work, and in what power ranking you'd rate them. It gives you a fair idea, but I would say that maybe some of my guesstimations are not the most accurate things in the whole wide world, but we'll give it a go. Also, I've not planned this. There's no script for this, so I will be rambling quite often for this. But then again, it'll make it nice and relaxing. I'll tell you what, I'll make it even more relaxing. I'll add a little bit of something special. Haha! You like that? A little bit of editing for you. A little bit of cinematic magic thrown in there, just for good measure. So what we've got here on the screen at the moment, you might be noticing I'm using Microsoft Publisher. Why I'm using Microsoft Publisher? Because I'm an adult, and I could do what I want, and you're not my mum. Unless, of course, you are my mum, in which case, I'm a homeowner now, mum. You can't tell me what to do. I'm not coming back. So I've written some things, so let me put my glasses on so I can actually read. Oh, that's much better. So I've got the tier list into two different sections. I've got flavour over here, which is basically how I think the faction feels. Is it authentic to the actual faction it's supposed to be? Like, do Space Marines feel like Space Marines? Do the Death Korps Krieg feel like Death Korps Krieg? And on the right-hand side, I've got power, which is just basically how I feel they rank in viability in the game. I've only got, well, it's yellow at top. I think it's more gold. A goldy yellowish. It's good. Totally fine. Amazing. Got green for, it's fine. Gravy. Don't need to change anything all that much. And then the red at the bottom, Because I don't think any factions are bad. I just think that maybe one or two of them might be a bit meh, either in flavour or in power. But we shall see. So you'll notice that I've got all the factions in little groups. I've got the Space Marine factions here, the Guard factions here, the Order Hereticus over yonder, Chaos, Eldari, the Xenos, and the Adeptus Mechanicus. I didn't really know where to fit them in, so I just kind of put them in the middle of all these guys, just for funsies. Didn't want to put them too close to the Eldari or the Chaos because, not huge vibes, man. So we'll start with the Space Marine factions. So I feel that vanilla Space Marines... Oh, that's quite my computer is lagging. I can play Unification and Ultimate Apocalypse on high graphics, but for some reason, Microsoft Publisher isn't a huge vibe. That's cool, nice one. Well, anyway, I feel that Space Marines certainly do feel a lot like Space Marines, especially with the addition of things like Honor Guard. You kind of like a lot of the units that I've added for these kinds of guys, like like Razorbacks and stuff. It's kind of like vanilla. In vanilla, Space Marines felt like Space Marines. They're there. I don't know how else I would improve it apart from maybe throwing a Roberto Gilliman in there, but that's more Ultramarines. I don't know what else you would do for them, but yeah, they're fine the way they are for flavour. I don't really want to do anything for them. And for, watch this, copy and paste. Look at that. And for power, I'm also going to stick them maybe in the low end of the green. I think they're alright. Space Marines are quite often known for their utility, their diversity. They're kind of like an all-rounder. With their troops and their tanks, Terminators, Land Raider. A Land Raider person I could take or leave, to be honest. But, they're alright. They're fine. Salamanders, on the other hand, I would certainly stick them up in the yellow flavour department, just because of all the flamers and whatnot. You got Vulcan in there, wonderful relic unit for an addition. They are slower and tougher than your average Space Marine, which I think is hugely viable. So I think they're fine. And I also think that in the power department, they are certainly up in the yellow as well. It's just... the Razorbacks are fantastic. They've got wonderful diversity in their openings as well, which I quite like. You can either go for your regular Tactical Marine opening. You can go for your scouts, or you can go for the Thunderfire cannons, which I think, depending on who you're up against, it's quite useful. Like if you're up against Imperial Guard, Thunderfire cannons, wonderful idea. Orcs, yeah, why not? Until the Storm Boys come out. It was the Witch Hunters we saw maybe about a week ago, or on the weekend or something. So yeah, they've got multiple different openings, which are quite useful. Which again, the apparent flexibility of these Space Marines, they don't really have that much in the way of openings going for them. Well, I mean, you've got your Force Commander, you've got your Tactical Marines, you've got your Scouts. Probably got a couple of other ways to bang dangle it, I suppose, but yeah, they don't feel like they come out all on top. Moving on to the Dark Angels. Flavor-wise, totally fine. They've got that thing where you're able to choose 2 different tech paths, which I understand that some people's perspective on locking specific tech paths means that you reduce its flexibility. And I think there's an argument for that and an argument against it, because obviously, if you lock half a faction's roster away from it, then you can't. I can understand why some people are not too keen on that. However, I also feel that if you've got a roster, especially say for example the Emperor's Children, we will get on to the Emperor's Children later on. I think it balances stuff in a way. If you've got lots of options, then it naturally makes your faction a little bit overpowered because you've got an answer for everything. But if you lock certain ideas and certain troops in certain tech tree choices that you make, it kind of balances it out. So, flavor-wise, I quite like them up here. Now, for Dark Angels, I'll be honest, I haven't played very many of them. I haven't seen many casts with these guys in, so I don't really know where they fit. But I think that based on the amount of times people play as them, I can fairly safely say that they're probably near these Space Marines or something. Well, I mean, they're either top end or bottom end. I don't think they're yellow, otherwise we'd probably see them quite a lot. I don't think they're red because we actually see them every now and then. So I'm gonna stick these next to the Space Marines. Please do remember, again, like I said, caveat, I'm a caster, not much of a player. I have no idea what I'm actually talking about. We're just here, man. We're just vibing, aren't we? Where, you know, if you're at the gym, lifting some weights, you know, or if you're going back home from a long day of work and you're sticking your earphones into listening to this, that's the main thing, really, isn't it? We're spending time together. Let the parasocial relationship foster within you. We're all friends here, I think. Okay, so we have got the Blood Angels, which very similar to the. I mean, I don't think that they lock off any of their tech tree, but they're kind of flavor-wise, yeah, they're just golden, aren't they? They've got the Black Rage, which make them work. Fits well with their theme. They've got options in the form of lots of melee combat orientated stuff. So honestly, it's kind of the same as the Dark Angels. I see the Blood Angels a little bit more than the Dark Angels, so I'll stick them somewhere around about here. This flavor section I've not organized in terms of how flavorful they are. They're just in it because I don't want to cover up the flavor text as of yet, in case anyone's joining the video midway through. Black Templar. Oh, sorry. Oh no, yeah, you're there. Yeah, you're there. Okay, Black Templar. Easy again. Another wonderfully flavored faction. Especially with the really strong tier 1, which encourages them to go very aggressive very early on in the game, which I imagine what the Black Templars would do. Not too sure about their late game. I think they, in some respects, they kind of feel a little bit like the Dark Eldar, in the sense that the Dark Eldar quite often want to be aggressive in that earlier game. You do the economic damage so that your natural dip in tier 2 will let you survive until tier 3, and you get those witch cults out. You get the dudes with the whips for hands, whatever you call them, the abominals or whatever you call them. Black Templars, I think, have something very similar. I think the tier 2 goes down a little bit and then peaks a little bit in tier 3, but not nearly as much as the tier 1, because the tier 1 is where you're going to really do all the big damage. And also, they've got dreadnoughts with swords and stuff. Like, how cool is that? And for power, I will say, with a major caveat, I'm going to stick these guys in the middle of green and gold. It will be said many times in this conversation, I feel, that the power of a faction is massively determined by the actual player, as I think is self-evident. If you're more experienced with a faction, the stronger the faction is. And some factions have higher skill ceilings than others. Some factions have barriers to entry, like I think the Burning Legion. The Burning Legion? Legion of the Damned. While they're on the face of it quite a simple faction, I think that if you don't know what you're doing with them, you can easily make a mistake. So I think their barrier to entry is a little bit higher than some other factions. And Black Templar, I think they're quite similar in the sense that if you know what they're up to, Tier 1, smack people around, then Tier 2, kind of chill out for a bit, hope they've done enough economic damage to then kind of consolidate your holdings and then finish them off in Tier 3. But if you're not very experienced with them, and you kind of play them as a normal Space Marine faction, I think it won't do any good. So I'm going to stick them in the middle here for reasons. I've got the Imperial Fists. Absolute chads, absolute heroes. These are my go-to Space Marine factions on the tabletop when I used to have time to play tabletop. Now it's just Kill Team, and that's just for the views, man. For the views on the Patreon. But, yeah, flavour-wise, I mean, what? You've got, when their morale breaks, they become more stubborn. Their siege generator, you only get one plasma generator, which I think is a really interesting thing. And I think that maybe some other Space Marine factions might benefit from a similar boon and limitation to the economy. Purely because, I mean, one, yes, the Imperial Fists are going to be focusing a lot on more defensive composition, which makes sure that their siege generator is probably not going to be sniped. But then if they don't follow that kind of way of playing, if they don't think, oh no, I've got to make sure my base is safe, then they can get easily punished for it by getting their thrice quadruple upgraded siege generator destroyed, which will then set them massively back in the old green money department. So I quite like them in that regard. I also think that these guys are a solid yellow gold in the power department. Purely because, I mean, they're Razorbacks. I mean, I forgot to mention the Razorbacks for the Salamanders as well. The Razorbacks, but what? Super cheap, but so useful. Like, it can't be understated. And the Imperial Fists, their Razorbacks are just on steroids, man. They are, I mean, they've got las cannons. Even the listing person got cannons. What? Las cannons, sorry. What's not to love about that? But yeah, they're Mark Razorback 1 Thingamadoodads. Like, they've got plasma guns and las cannons, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, definitely up there. They've got solid Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 all the way. And their Siege Marines as well, being able to carry heavy cover around with them at all times. Like, that's just insane in the membrane. Burning Legion. They are, I would say, I don't know about these. I'm going to stick them in the middle of green and yellow. Hold on, let me move you to the front just because I don't want to see you. There we go. Not on your own. Yeah, they're in the middle. I like the idea of the warp portal. Gives me Grey Goo vibes. And I think that makes sense. They wouldn't be building buildings, which is obvious because they are too busy being demons and trying to get revenge for the Emperor and all that jazz. I don't know. I just don't. We had a conversation about this on the Discord a while back. How if you try and like assault them in their base, they've got this big swirling portal with lots of health in it. And you can't really punish them for having only one structure in the base. Unless, of course, they've overextended on buying too many units. And if they bought too many units, you're not getting in the base anytime soon. Now, hear me out. In my head, I'm thinking, well, what if rather than just one portal, if you want an infantry portal, you take 2,000 health from your main portal, and then you spawn another infantry portal. And then, if the infantry portal is destroyed, the maximum health returns to your main warp portal, but then it's like empty. So, like, you've got to regenerate that health over time, which I think would make base trading or invading bases, it makes the Burning Legion a little bit more vulnerable to harassment, which I think would give them a bit of counterplay, in my honest, humble opinion. But the whole Dues of Skulls, the models for them are absolutely fantastic. So flavor for that is top tier, I would say. Power wise, I think top green. Well, not top green, maybe somewhere around this general area. Just because, like, I don't know. I mean, I've seen them absolutely wipe the floor. I mean, Laughing Max, when he played against me, he wiped the floor with me, with those guys. But I think that if he was up against someone who knew what their whole shtick was, I think that they would come under a lot of problems. Especially in the tier 1 where they've only got, like, motorbikes, which, yeah, fair play. Those motorbikes are quite lethal in packs. But if you're recruiting a lot of motorbikes, you're not taking up into tier 2. And, yeah, so that's my honest, humble opinion about those guys. Space Wolves, now, these guys, full of flavour. Like the flavour for these guys. The whole, like, oh, we don't need strategic points. We just need to build up our armories and then go steal things from other people. Like, armories and stealing. That's Viking right there, baby. That's pure, unbridled. Norwegian? Swedish? Wherever Vikings come from. Lindisfarne. I'll never forget. Never forget the harrowing of the North from those Scandinavian sods. But yeah, aesthetics and the flavour for them, amazing. However, and I'm really sad to say this, that they're going to probably be my first dudes in the Red Power. I feel like at the moment, they're a bit of a placeholder faction in the sense that their tier 1 is developed. I don't think their tier 2 or tier 3 is nearly as developed as anyone else, which I'm sure, I mean, I have no idea about the beta or any betas that are ongoing at the moment, purely because I don't really communicate very well with people over Discords. The only reason why I communicate with people on my Discord quite a lot is because now I've got my own. It feels more like I'm obliged to, because it's a job now. So I can compartmentalize that. But talking to like people on the Unification server and saying, hey, how's the beta going? It's like, I feel like I'm being rude. I feel like I'm intruding. And that's not a pleasant thing to do. Hold on, my music has gone off. I'm listening to the soundtrack that I've put on for you guys. Just so then I'm like talking at like a similar volume, so I'm not overbearing or being too quiet. And yeah, okay, that is the Space Marine factions done. Okay, let's go for Imperial Guard. Imperial Guard, I think, flavor-wise, it's the conscripts. Now, you never usually see many conscripts in these casts, or the cast that I do, but yeah, man. Just a wave of unwashed bodies going up against the chaotic masses. That's good. You've got your, vanilla-wise, got all the old units, Commissars shooting people. It's just great, yeah. And all the additions that Unification has brought, like I say, with those conscripts, with the special weapons teams, and the introduction of like different variants of basilisks. That's what they call them. I was about to call them Batistas. Batista is not a vehicle in Dawn of War or in Warhammer 40k. Definitely not. But yeah, the introduction of those different basilisks and different types of units. There are many different ways that you can upgrade your Leman Russes as well. Very authentic to the flavour of the Imperial Guard. So yeah, they get a thumbs up in my books. And for power, I would say that they are also... where would they be? Yeah, stick them in where would they be? They'd be somewhere behind all these Space Marines, I feel. I think the Space Marines have got a lot more going for them. If they were to go up against the Imperial Guard, I think these Space Marines would have an advantage quite heavily in the tier 1s and tier 2s. I mean, what if when the Guardsmen take up into tier 2 initially, they get Chimera out? These guys have got an answer for that. Guardsmen don't really have an answer for many other factions like the Space Marines in the initials of tier 2. In my humble opinion, anyway. But I'd still say that they're a remarkably strong faction if played right. Death Korps Krieg, shovels. They've got shovels on their boys. They've got gas masks. The voice acting for them, oh my god, amazing stuff. The way that the buildings look, just aesthetically, they win on flavour alone. But yeah, and also the units that are available to them as well. It's I mean, you've got the soldiers, you've got the Sturmtruppens or whatever. The guys with the skulls for masks look really, really cool. So yeah, and you've got the bunkers, which every Imperial Guard faction or Astra Militarum faction, shall we say, they've got good. They're all defensive in their own unique way. So obviously, you've got the Imperial Guard. They can jump in their infantry commands and their buildings, Deathcore Krieg, they've got their mines and they've got their bunkers. And the Steel Legion, they've got their super duper amazing turrets. And they're also able to jump in things as well, which is all cool. So yeah, aesthetically and thematically, the Deathcore of Krieg do work. Power-wise, I know that we don't see them win often on the channel. I understand that. However, they do have absolutely insane vehicles in the late game. I think quite often in the casts we see a lot of infantry-focused builds, but if they were allowed to just survive a little bit longer and go for all those big vehicles, I think they would certainly win a lot more. So I'm going to... Also because people tend to play them defensively. Like, they're winning, and then they'll build bunkers halfway towards the enemy's base, and then they'll sit there. So I think that I'm gonna give them, I'm gonna put them in between. I'm gonna stick them just a smidgen in front of the guard in that regard. Steel Legion, I mean, they've got their, much like the Dark Angels, they've got their choice between mechanized infantry and tank division. Is it called tank division? But I mean, it gives you a choice between having really cool infantry or really cool tanks, which I think is quite cool. Voice acting for them's quite nice. And I'm not entirely sure why the builders can't repair things. It's certainly interesting, don't get me wrong. It certainly adds a need for those Trojans in the tier 2s. But yeah, oh, the tank case as well, with the really long cigar barrel. Amazing stuff. And for power-wise, to be honest, I think all the guards factions, I'm going to put the Steel Legion a little bit further in front, just because of those turrets and the grenade launchers as well, in the tier 1s specifically. Because, I mean, when they go into tier 2, and they've got their tanks and whatnot, and then they've also got those drop stormtrooper-y dudes, I think they're quite useful. Okay, let's go for the Sisters. I think, so, Sisters, Inquisition lads, and the... I'm going to kind of do all these guys at the same time, because I feel like as if the Sisters, yeah, they feel like Sisters in the same way Vanilla does. And the Grey Knights, they kind of feel like Grey Knights in the sense that, I mean, what, do I put them in green? Because, I mean, they start with the Grey Knight Captain, and they come out, and I mean, they don't, I don't know why, I've got no reason why, they don't strike me as, these are the Grey Knights. These are, in the same way, like, you know, the Thousand Sons, they've got like a bajillion million spells, and like, everything about the Thousand Sons is, we do magic. I don't feel like as if everything about the Grey Knights is, we kill Psykers, and we kill those kinds of nefarious dudes and dudettes. So I'm going to stick them into here, I think. And the Witch Hunters, I think that, like I said in a cast with them maybe about a week ago, they feel like Sisters of Battle Plus, in the sense that they kind of have all the same flavors and all the same units, and with extra stuff. They've got that really cool thing where you split the tech path so that you get different options with how to play as them. So yeah, that's where I'm going to put them for flavor. Also the Floating Children as well. Terrifying stuff. And for the... where are the Grey Knights and the Sisters? I'm going to stick Sisters. Celestians, they're quite good. I'm going to stick them up. Now I'm thinking, why have I put Burning Legion up here? I'm going to stick them maybe a little bit in the middle. But yeah, Sisters, I think they're quite strong. I would say purely because, as well, quite a lot of the vanilla factions, because everyone's familiar with the vanilla factions, that gives them a little extra boost in strength, I would say, for reasons. Grey Knights, I don't know. I haven't really seen them being all that useful, so I can't really comment on that too much. I'm going to stick them near the Dark Angels, just because I don't really know the answer to that. Witch Hunters, I'm going to stick probably a little bit behind the Guard. Just a smidgen behind the Guard, I would say. Just because, I mean, they've got they've got loads of answers to lots of different things, but I don't think they've got the same kind of punching power that maybe the Salamanders and Imperial Fists have. Like, if they went up against a staunch line of lasguns, defensive fortifications and stuff, I mean, we saw it with the half-naked ladies with the swords. What are they called? Not the Exorcists, not Sisters of Silence, the Repentias, that's what they're called, the Repentias. Like, we saw that them just rip apart blooming Primaris. But maybe it's the vehicles that they're lacking in. Maybe it's like hardcore vehicles in the same way that all these other lads have. Maybe, I don't know. Like I will say this a million times. Who knows what I'm on about, really. Let's move these guys up. I've only just realised that my screen at the moment will have, on my webcam, in fact, will actually, I've been covering up half of these thingies. So we'll pop these guys up there, and then we'll see if we can come back over. There we go, look at that. Microsoft Publisher. Never before have I ever seen something so beautiful. Use it at work all the time. Okay, let's do Adeptus Mechanicus. I think that these guys are more or less on the same level as the Space Wolves, in the sense that, flavor-wise, you've got, I mean, you've got the Servitors with the big hand things, well, the crab metal hands. You've got the High Pass Pists, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Wonderful little scorpion robot-y thing. And also the SCT, well, SCT, I always want to call them NFT searchers. SCT searchers, where the more mechanical aspects and units in the roster of the Adeptus Mechanicus, when the morale goes down, it's kind of like their Wi-Fi, their bandwidth. I love that. I think that's great. It's a really unique mechanic that no other faction has, which makes them feel really important in that regard. However, they're very much in the same way as the Space Wolves in regards to they're just lacking in content, I feel. And I feel like as if maybe the morale SCT thing can kind of be a little bit more expanded upon. Maybe there are certain units that have access to, I don't know, maybe it's like an ability where they, you know, kind of like the Tyranids synapse, but like, maybe it's like a temporary thing, maybe it's like a temporary signal booster or something. Maybe there's like a thing where, because the Adeptus Mechanicus don't build buildings, because they're Adeptus Mechanicus Explorators, which makes sense. They wouldn't build much in the way of things because they're exploring things. Like, in my head, I'm thinking, well, what if they had like a turret that they could just pop down, and then that would be like a little, you know, the radius for that morale increasing bandwidth thing would be like really, really tiny. But I think that maybe that's like only like a limit of like, oh, you can only build 3, you know, something like that. And maybe that's like a tier 3 option. I don't know. But again, I also haven't seen that many Adeptus Mechanicus games, so maybe there is something in there that I am missing. I could have done research before this video, but I don't know if you can tell by looking in my eyes, I am quite tired all the time. I don't have time for doing things like research. Ugh! Who needs to do research when you could just spout rubbish on the internet? Is that not what we are here for? Okay, what do we do next? Let's go for Xenos, shall we? Tau, I'd say, yeah, they are. I'm gonna put them in the same line as these guys. I feel. Whoops, what have I done there? Go back, Tau. Like I said, the flavour is not ranked anywhere in any particular order. I feel like with a lot of these vanilla factions, they feel very same as the original Soulstorm feeling for them. They haven't been given anything extra special, apart from the Imperial Guard, to make them feel more like what they originally were. Although then, in saying that, in all fairness, the Tau do have new heroes that are in like tanks, like Captain Longstride. They've got those really cool late-game vehicles, which do add to things. They've got turrets, which I think are quite useful if you add them on the game settings before you enter a match. But yeah, they don't feel any more like Tau than they do the original Soulstorm. But that's not a bad thing. This green section is not a bad place to put anything whatsoever. It's like, they feel like it. No dramas. Orcs, on the other hand, I feel like is a very similar in the way of Imperial Guard. It's just the, how would one say it? It's their late game stuff that feels really tasty. It's the looters, it's the commandos, it's the big stompers. They just feel great. They just feel great to have. And I mean, yeah, okay, the Space Marines, they've got their Warhound Titan, which is nice. I just feel like this if they could just be more. But then again, Space Marines I can kind of understand, because why give them more stuff when you've got all the other Space Marine sub-factions to play with? So yeah, that's my opinion on the Tau for that. Oh, I completely forgot to put Tau in the power department. I'm going to put them near the Sisters. I'd say probably same power level as the Sisters, just in like a different kind of thing. I mean, Fire Warriors, just spam them and you're laughing. Wait till you get those Hammerheads, you're also laughing. It's all good fun in the hood. They've also got like the options of like having crew and Vespids, so their openings are very diverse, which are quite useful. Orcs, I think, are unarguably quite high up in the... I'm going to put the Steel Legion a little bit in front of the Orcs. I'm going to put the Orcs... Oh, don't want to squish you, Mr. Steel Legion man. I'm going to put you guys in the middle between the Imperial Guard and Death Corps and the Steel Legion. The Dakar Jets, man, they're big, they're bold, they're brash. They are expensive, though. I saw a comment on the video the other day. Yes, they are expensive, and that is a kind of a balance. But like when those boys get rolling, it's quite hard to stop them en masse. So yeah, Necrons. They're another faction I think have stuff added to them that make them feel more flavourable. Mainly the voices that's been added to them. Like Necron Lord having that really croaky, oh, you have my attention for now kind of thing. I think that's pretty mega. And the introduction of being able to recruit specific vehicles not from the monolith, which I think, well, that probably brings me more to the power level. I would say Necrons are probably on the Salamander level. I would say Necrons and Salamanders are fairly similar. I mean, if you put Salamanders up against Necrons, they're both, well, I don't know, they're kind of similar to Imperial Fist. I'm gonna put all these guys in a nice little happy union between them all, if I can grab the Salamanders. I'm gonna move you like this. Look at that. Tell I use this for work all day long. Yeah, because I mean, they've just got like they're just really strong. There's nothing else to be said about it. They're tier 2.5. Once that hits, you're laughing basically. It's just surviving the early game. If you're up against a particularly aggressive faction, like if you stuck these guys against Black Templar, the Black Templar player thinks, right, okay, Crusaders, go. The Necrons are going to struggle. But you survive that, and where else are the Black Templars going to go from there? I mean, your Necron Warriors, they're going to come out of the Disruption Fields. Blade One's going to break morale. You've got the Doom Scythes and the Warblades, the people in the big hamster wheels with the little guns. Oh, sorry, I'm bashing the microphone there. Yeah, they've just got so many options. And when they build that big pyramid, and they're able to get out named Necron characters, who are all really good, which again adds to their flavour factor. It's pretty banging, man. It's pretty banging. And the Tyranids, their flavour is great. Now, I think, and again, the umpteenth time, please do take this with a pinch of salt. The only thing that irks me about the Tyranids is that in nearly every single game I've seen of them being in, so Tyranids are swarms, aren't they? They're meant to be lots of swarmy dudes. And you never really see the swarm. You never see the hive come together. You always see the Tyranid warriors, the Raveners. Not Ravengers, Raveners. And the Zoanthropes. You see the elites. But you never see, like in the artwork, where there's tons of swarmy little dudes at the bottom being hulked over by these big hive tyrants and stuff. And I'm wondering what to do to fix about that. I think maybe. So in Dawn of War Pro mod, the Imperial Guard of a mechanic where however many units of infantry they have on the field, that increases their squad cap for vehicles. So I wonder if the Tyranids, they do that where you've got Tyranids above the size of whatever, and then Tyranids below the size of whatever. And for every 2 units of little uns, you get 1 squad of big uns. Now that probably would break the faction, and it would require all the reworks known to man. Or maybe they could do a thing kind of similar to the Chaos Demons, where you've got lesser demons focus or a greater demon focus. Where I don't know, maybe for like if you've got Swarm focus, then the reinforcement rate for your Termagants and Hormagaunts go up through the roof. Because in that way, then when you're charging in at a firing line, and yeah, okay, you're going to lose loads of models, but don't worry, those models are going to come straight back, so you need some concentrated fire to be able to break them down. Because I mean, you could go for like the Emperor's Children route or the Mad Dog Fighting Juice route of, oh, well, they are immortal for a little bit and they don't actually die. But then that doesn't really feel much like Tyranids. But in saying that, no builders, the buildings just plop down. The Hierophant, I think it's called the Hierophant, the big one with a gnarly tail and evil face, makes me think of Cho'Gath from League of Legends. Or maybe that's what inspired Cho'Gath, who really knows. But yeah, flavour-wise, Tyranids are golden. I'm not so sure about the power. I do believe that they've got lots of avenues for playing around. They are quite a strong faction. I'm going to stick them probably on... I'm going to stick them ahead of Blood Angels. Again, I've seen more Tyranids than I have Blood Angels, so maybe I'm wrong with this, but when you do get those big units out, you're in trouble. And also their ability to build infinite reclamation pools as well, which is quite sick, I do have to say. Yeah, their economy game is quite nice and gnarly. And their Synapse ability as well, like unable to like lose morale if there's Synapse creatures nearby, which is understated, but a really useful ability. Like if people come out with flamers, then it's like, what? Who cares? You're just cooking my meal for me. So nice. Okay, we're nearly through. We've only got 2 big batches left. We'll save Chaos for last because I think Chaos have got a lot to say for themselves here. Let's go for Dark Eldar. I think again, vanilla faction. They feel more or less the same as they do in the original. They've had. In fact, no, that's a lie. I'm gonna put them up to a little bit here, purely because with the addition of the big gross, I think they're called grotesques, aren't they? Grotesques and other units like that. I think that adds a little bit more flavour to them. More could be done, I think. I think the fear mechanic and maybe, I don't know, maybe like something to do with inflicting pain. You know, in the same way that the World Eaters, their economy goes up based on how many people are in close combat or other nonsense like that. I think that maybe like the Dark Eldar could have something like when they're inflicting pain, they gain a reduction in morale damage, or they gain a reduction in, or maybe like an increase in health regen for maybe 10 seconds. You know, just a little, just a smidgen of a tooltip like that would push them further up, maybe into the gold there. But they're fine. They're fine the way they are. I'm totally down for them at the moment. Power-wise, I'm going to stick them very close to the Black Templar in the sense that they kind of have a similar vibe. Attack early, do all your economic damage. Oh, I feel really bad. The Black Templar are now kind of like on their own a little bit. Hold on. Let me see if I can rescue them. Ah, Windows. Don't fail me now. There we go. Come out from the shadows, young man. Come share your... There we go. So yeah, just kind of a similar play style. Well, not play style, but similar opinions on their power rating there. Although I would say, in fact, yeah, no, because I think in Soulstorm, the tier 2 for Dark Eldar is quite terrible. It's where you see a lot of players and in casts where they make their biggest mistakes. I think that the tier 2 for Dark Eldar is a little weaker than the tier 2 for Black Templar in that regard. Okay, the other Harlequins, the clowns, that they feel great. Although, in saying that, I feel like as if the whole point about Harlequins is their trickster nature, their ability to play jokes and play pranks. And yeah, the Great Harlequin's got the abilities where he's able to throw about warp warp gates, not warp gates. Webway gates, that's what they're called, because they don't mess around with the warp, do they? Because they're sensible-ish, if you ignore the poetry. Flavour-wise, I feel like as if there could be more to be done with their trickery and nonsense. I feel like as if they are unit-wise, model-wise, building-wise as well, totally fine. I just think maybe that there should be some more game mechanics, and I don't know what those game mechanics would be. I've got no opinion on that purely because I'm not too keen on the Harlequins. Like, in my head, from what I understand about lore, is that they're meant to be a very small amount. I've heard some people talk about the Adeptus Mechanicus being like they're an elite army, in the sense that you only get so many units, but all those units are really, really strong, which I don't feel that about the Adeptus Mechanicus. I don't feel like that would represent them very well in any regard. But I feel like the Harlequins would benefit in, we've got a squadron of Harlequins, the unit Harlequins. And there's only 4 of them, but they're really, really strong. And then you get that, the Death Gesture. Actually, yeah, perfect example. The Death Gestures in the Harlequins, where you've only got like 3 in the squad, but they do a hell of a lot of damage, and they're quite vulnerable. So I think that would push them into the proper gold. But they're in the middle. They feel like Harlequins. They could just feel more like Harlequins. Let's go with the regular Eldar. Oh, sugar! I haven't even put the normal or the Harlequins into a power ranking. I'm gonna stick these guys kind of. I would stick them in this general hodgepodge we've got going on here. I feel like as if in their late game they're quite strong, and the Harlequin's kiss for those units, for the combat units, is ridiculously strong. I'm not sure about the tier 3 at all, I'll be honest. I'm more inclined just out of safety to put them a little bit further up here, just because I think they've got a lot going on for themselves in tier 2, and I assume that carries on in tier 3. But I'm gonna be conservative here and stick them just roundabouts in this general hodgepodge going on. Regular Eldar. Yeah, they're fine. They feel like Eldar. No more so than the original game. Again, with the Harlequins, or in the similar veins of the Harlequins, Eldar feel like as if they should have some more trickery up their sleeves. Or maybe leaning more towards the sidekick stuff. But then, in saying that, they do have a lot of their really cool heroes, like Amon Ra, which I would say, yeah, go on then, we'll stick them a little bit. Oh, sorry about you, Mrs. Battle Sister. I'm going to stick you not quite halfway in between. I'm gonna let them just nibble at the gold rank up there. I'm going to let them just touch the tip, shall we say, just because of those named heroes. But, nah. And for power-wise, I'm going to say that they are fairly in the gold, and I would put them... Ooh, controversial. A lot of people say, oh my goodness, they're overpowered, they're up here. Oh, they win too much, they're too strong. Hold on, let me fix my music again. Play from the beginning, go. There we go. Yeah, a lot of people, I think, in the comments especially, would say, oh yeah, Eldar are OP and all that stuff. And I'm inclined to be in that kind of way just because all the units, obviously, strong against one thing. Dark Reapers were good against heavy infantry and infantry. Fire Dragons, good against buildings and vehicles. That is fair enough. But their skill ceiling to actually be good. Because I see a lot of videos, not videos, I'll see a lot of replays where an Eldar is not being played very well, and they're just an easy race to mess up, and your micro's got to be on point. So I'm going to put them a little bit ahead of Necrons. Just a smidgen, I would say. Ever so slightly in front of Necrons. And ever so slightly behind the Imperial Fists here. Who else have we got? We have got the Inari. Now, I do quite like these in the sense that, well, they're just all the Eldar, aren't they? And especially with Yvraine bringing out the poetry at the beginning of every game. And all the poetry is determined by whatever faction she's fighting, which is really, really cool. And yeah, you're able to, you don't have access to all the Eldar. You have access to only a couple of units from every roster, which I quite like because that's not overbearing. It's not too much. I don't know if the choices of units within each of those sub-factions that you have access to are the best reflections of those, I would say. I mean, yeah, the Harlequin sections, you've got the Harlequins, you've got the Mimes. Dark Eldar, you've got your Scourges, I think, and the Warriors. I would wonder if it would be better if, like, oh, well, for your melee option, you go Dark Eldar, and for your long-range heavy infantry counter, you go Eldar. Just as an example. I don't know whether the Dark Eldar would be the best choice for the close combat units, but just as an example, so like each faction has its own very clearly defined roles, I guess. And I think that maybe... So hear me out. This faction is unique in the sense that, yes, other factions have got, right, we choose one direction to go in, and that's it, like a locked tier, tech tier list, shall we say. But the Ynnari don't have that problem, which I think makes sense because they're all working together, aren't they? I wonder if for the first sub-faction that you unlock for them, totally free, don't even need any research. You click the button, it already goes, and you instantly, can recruit whoever comes from there. Kind of like how the Death Guard, when you select one of their companies, it instantly gives you the company. And then for every subsequent faction after that doesn't follow your original one, it costs a little bit more of money, and it makes a little bit more, and it costs a little bit of time to research. So then, say for example, if in your infantry recruitment building, you go for all free, and then you research you build your vehicle recruitment building, and then you start saying, oh, well, I want to go for Dark Eldar vehicles, whatever, then it mounts up. So that way, you do have the choice of going for everything if you want to, but then there's a consequence for being too broad and too wide. I feel that would add a little bit of interesting flavour to them. But Yvrain gets a dog as well. Yvrain gets a dog. What's not to love? Now, in saying that, almost like too many cooks spoiling the broth, because they've got so many units, and I don't really feel like as if any of their, like I said before, I don't really feel like as if any of their unit selections have any real proper weight to them. Like, I mean, okay, yeah, you've got Death Gestures, yeah, you've got the Eldar walking Corsair things. I just don't feel they've got the same kind of punch as the individual Eldari factions. So I'm going to stick them a little bit behind the Blood Angels for this. And why did I move you down here, Burning Legion? I don't know why. God, I can't remember. Sorry, this video is so long, and this is a format that I'm not at all rehearsed or familiar with, so this is not the way forward for me. We'll stick it there. Who cares? This isn't really an official tier list anyway, is it? Chaos, I think that you have had enough added to you to make you feel proper dank, I would say. You've got Altharius as a Primarch there. You've got quite a lot of options in the way of you've got your Chaos Renegades, you've got your Icons of Chaos, got that stuff. But maybe that's what the Space Marine faction should do to add a little bit of flavour to the vanilla variants of them. Just have specific icons and specific like little things that don't quite dedicate you to one chapter entirely, but just kind of nod to it. And I think as well for maybe like Space Marine factions that probably won't see the light of day for a very long time, it would scratch that itch that some people would have. So like maybe it's like a Raven Guard thing that you can add to the original Space Marines. Like, oh well, if you attach this particular chaplain to your Space Marines, they become infiltrated if they're in heavy cover. Or something like that. Just throwing ideas out like that. But yeah, Chaos Space Marines, I would say, are quite flavourful in that regard. So I've copied the Space Marines again. And Chaos, I'm going to say, Ooh, now. Where would I put you, Chaos Space Marines? I think that they are a strong green. I would say probably the strongest green going. Mainly because they've got lots of avenues to go for. They've still got the cultist grenade opening and whatnot, but they've got the cultists have more options later on when they're able to dedicate themselves to certain things. You can also swap them out for renegades, which I don't know how viable they are, but they look cool at the very least. Yeah, and they've got their titans and stuff, which is great. I think they've got solid tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So yeah, I'm going to put them in a solid green for this. Yeah, moving on to save the Emperor's Children for last. So I think there's a lot to pack or unpack with the Emperor's Children. Thousand Sons, their tooltips on their own win them a strong flavour. I feel like as if you want to play the Thousand Sons, you'll be really happy with them because there's lots of magic. The Rubik Marines feel like Rubik Marines. The vehicles that they have access to, the Sonic Blades, my goodness. Fantastic stuff. Lack of Magnus the Red, which I assume will be fixed some point in the near future. But they've got like the big blue bird. What do you call him? He's not a Keeper of Secrets, is he? That's a Slaneshi demon. The big blue doofer, whatever you call him. The Change of Ways, that's what they call them, I think. Yeah, I think it's just if you are a Thousand Sons fan, you will love them because they've got so much. And the sheer amount of spells that you have access to with Araman the Exile and your Sorcerer Lord is fantastic. If you don't like Thousand Sons, you will hate them. I played them in the Battle of the Gods, and I'll be honest, I wasn't having too much fun with them. I was like, what's going on? This is not... Like I said, with the power thing, their entry level, their buy-in to play properly is a lot higher than other factions, in my honest, humble opinion. Which I think does hurt them in the power department. But... Oh, shoot. But when you've got a really good player, they are certainly up there with the best. I'm going to put them behind... I'm going to put them in front of the Guard, but behind the Krieg. Mainly because I think that the Krieg in the later games have a stronger tier 3. I think the Thousand Sons kind of... So, their spells are great. Answers to loads of different things. And also, your opponent can never guess what spells you're going to go for because you can change them as people are dying and stuff. But it's making the right call at the right time at all times. Whereas the Krieg and other factions is like, right, I have my tanks, I know what I'm doing. It's the certainty. So I think it's the uncertainty factor that hurts the Thousand Sons. If that makes any sense whatsoever. I am kind of rambling on at this point. Let's go for the Chaos Demons. Now, actually that brings me up to another thing about the flavour for the Thousand Sons. Kind of similar to the Chaos Demons. Because the Screamers of Zinch in the early game against so many factions are so useful, quite often you see people opening up with Screamers of Zinch, which is fine, that's totally fine. But I wish there were more open avenues or more open build orders for them. I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah, so anyway, Chaos Demons, I think, again, you get access to all the demons in the world you could ever want. Oh, no. They've fallen behind the wayside. Let me stick you on the top. Can I rescue you? Ah, bugger. Well, I'll just move them. Just you know where they are. They're hiding in the backside. There we go. All 4 Chaos Gods, and you get all 4 Great Demons, and you get all the good stuff. You get to choose to dedicate yourself to one god or another, which thematic reasons why it's brilliant stuff. But actually, can I? Let me just Control Z because I realised I need to copy and paste these guys. But yeah, so thematically, totally fine. Same with the Thousand Sons. I think you see a lot of Zinch models and people going sometimes exclusively Zinch, sometimes only like little flavors of Zinch in there, which I get because it's strong, but I just wish that maybe the other Chaos Demons had some love in there. Maybe a little bit of a power boost. Oh, come on, for fuck's sake, right? You're there now. And power-wise, I'm going to say a little bit behind. When they're able to get their Great Demons on, they slap. Absolutely slap all day long. But until then, I feel like they're a bit wishy-washy. They're a little bit paper-cut. In fact, no, they're not. No, they wouldn't be up there, would they? They would be... Because they're strong in tier 3, I'm going to stick them a little bit ahead of the Tyranids. But I'm going to stick them in the middle-ish. Just behind these guys. Yeah, they're... Tier 3 is intense. Tier 1 is a bit... And also, when they lose morale, they lose health, so I've got to go all the way back home. Which is totally fine in Tier 1 when you're harassing and you're going backwards and forwards. But you don't want that in the late game, do you? When you're having these long, protracted battles, I think that hurts them a little bit. Which is fine, because, you know, that's one of the weaknesses. That makes total sense. Let's go for Death Guard. Honestly, the voice acting for these guys, and also the voice editing for these guys, is just insane. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. But, in fact, there's no buts. No, they're just great. All the sounds for them, the way that the models are slower but tougher, the way that you can upgrade them to make them even more tougher when Mortarion comes out, and it's just, honestly, that model for Mortarion, Chef's Kiss, man, just totally good. It feels like you're actually playing the Death Guard, which is just crazy stuff. And to be honest, like I say, for all these factions in the yellow, it really feels like as if you are actually playing them on the battlefield. And same with these guys, maybe less so, but it's just great. It's good. And I would say... Oh, the clipboard is busy. What? How dare you? Let me try that again. Yeah, don't mess with me, publisher. I'll be belligerent. I'll do the same things again. I think that these guys are smack bang on top of the Salamanders. I cannot decide whether they are stronger or weaker than the Salamanders. They've got a really strong Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Not so much in the way that, like, it'd blow people away. Like, I think in loads of situations, these factions would get the one-up on these guys. But, I don't know, I feel like as if... Because they're so new as well. Like, I mean, how long have they been with us? Since about, like, October? I think a lot of their power and a lot of their build orders have yet to be properly explored. I think they're certainly up there in the power department. And the Emperor's Children. These are an interesting one. Because they've got so much going for them. In the sense that they've got every single unit known to man. I think it's like the biggest roster. Oh, we don't have the World Eaters. Where have I put the World Eaters? Hold on. There we go. Fix that. I knew I was forgetting something. But yeah, so these guys are kind of similar in the sense that they've just got like all the units, all the things ever. I mean, Emperor's Children, like I said, feel like Emperor's Children. They've got that vibe about them. I do also really like the, how would one say, the ability where they're able to keep themselves immortal for a little while and not die. I think that's quite thematically, I think it works for the Emperor's Children. Because much like, I don't know if you've played Total War Warhammer 3, but the Slaanesh faction in there, it's very much like a glass cannon. You run in, kill people, run out. And if you don't do that, you'll die in extended combat. I feel like as if for the Emperor's Children, they run into combat, they stay there, and then when they're about to die, they pop their thingies, and then when they don't die, they just carry on. Or maybe they run away with their lives, and then come back in and do it all again like 2 minutes later. I feel like as if there needs to be more of a glass cannony nature for the Emperor's Children. Yeah, I'll put them a little bit further down. Just dipping their toes in the green there. For that reason. I wonder if maybe it's just a reduction of health. Maybe it's a decrease in the time that immortality ability lasts for. But, I mean, overall, thematically, the business... sorry about that. I'm trying to... Ever since... Oh, bugger, what have I done? Come back. There we go. I've got the microphone here over my keyboard. I can't see the keys. I don't know my hotkeys anyway, especially IRL. They're just clearly, at the moment, I think, it's undisputed. Very strong faction. The strongest faction at the moment. So many options to go for. Because their roster's so big, they have an answer for literally everything. War Battalions Tier 2. We saw at the tournament. Absolutely decimated everyone. Necron's against them in that tournament. Eventually, we're getting round to figuring them out, but then by the time you figure out the Warp Talons, well, then you've got Sonic Predators coming out. And we've got Sonic Predators coming out, then you've got other nonsense coming out, so absolutely insane. I think that these guys would benefit from having a lot of their units locked off from the... In the same way that we mentioned before about the Witch Hunters. Just, oh, well, you can either have these units or these units. You can either go with like a Traitor Legion theme or a more chaosy vibe theme. But I mean, I don't know. I've heard rumors that they're going to be splitting the Emperor's Children into 2 separate factions. But how those rumors are, I don't really know because my memory isn't great. And okay, ending it with the World Eaters and Chads, the true alpha males of these lads. Again, all the themes, all the thematics, they're brilliant. I think they're just going into combat and murdering everyone, increasing their own economy. Great. Regardless of who dies, fantastic. They've got global abilities, which add to it. I mean, literal blood raining from the sky. What more could you want? And the voice acting, you just feel like you're spilling blood for the blood god. I don't know whether these guys are... Because the Tier 1 and Tier 2 are quite alright. I don't think the Tier 1's amazing. Depends on who's playing them, really, and depends on who you're up against. I'm going to put them on the same level as... I'm going to put them a little bit ahead of the Thousand Suns, but not as far ahead as the Death Corps. Not the Death Corps, the Death Guard. Just because... I don't know, I just don't think that they've got the same level of, like, staying power as the Death Guard. They don't have the same kind of, like, damage as the Emperor's Children. But they do pack quite the wallop, and when you get that ball rolling, when you get that extra economy from all the combat, you are quite golden in that regard. So yeah, that is an amalgamation. That is not an organised pile whatsoever, but it is what it is. And like I say, half the things I've said are probably absolutely wrong. But it is what it is. That's the way casting goes. You actually know nothing about what's going on half the time. You're just feigning expertise in the hopes that no one gets a peek behind the curtain to see what's really going on. But anyway, I hope that... I would love to hear your opinions on what I think, or whether maybe I've missed out on some things that would put people up or bring factions back down. Wonderful for the algorithm as well. You know, the more discussion, the more the algorithm loves the videos, so please give that a go. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say, and I think I've been doing this for about a bajillion million years, so I think I'm going to bounce. So yeah, if you like the content, have a look at the old Patreon. £1 a month does get you 1 extra game a week. And there's a Discord as well. Want to get involved in some games. Some cheeky back and forths. A little bit of banter as well over in there. So yeah, links to that will be in the description. Yeah, my name's been Mr. Landshark. Pleasure as always. Never a chore. And I'll see you in a bit. Peace.